I am joined on this call with Leonardo Silverio, our in-market representative for South America. Our activity coordinator for this event is Sandy Renner. This preview session is dedicated to the Focus Trade Mission to Colombia to discuss the markets, products of interest, and general itinerary for the mission. We will discuss the cost to participate as well as registration. The call will last about 30 minutes and will be recorded and posted to our website. Everyone is automatically muted. We will encourage you to ask questions through the Q&A box to be discussed following the presentations. Questions that are not addressed will be answered in email. Later, you'll see a slide of our liaison team to contact with questions or help. Next slide, please. For those of you unfamiliar with Food Export, we are a nonprofit organization working with agricultural promotion agencies from 13 Midwest states and 10 Northeast states. We provide the support that U.S. companies need to enter international markets. We have in-market reps, next slide please, in-market representatives around the world to assist U.S. exporters with their international marketing efforts. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Leonardo, who you will meet in person if you decide to do this mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Thank you very much, everybody that are here live and whoever is watching also on demand. And first of all, I do want to meet all of you in person. So I thank you for the interest in hearing more about Colombia today and about this trade mission to Colombia. Next slide, please. So in case you are unfamiliar with Colombia, let's give some data here and talk a little bit about the country and general opportunities that we have or general macroeconomy information about Colombia. So first of all, we are in the same hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere, very near the USA. It's the third most populous country in Latin America. We're talking about over 52 million people, 11 of which in Bogota, the capital city. Okay, this is also the third largest economy in South America. It's a country with an expanding middle class, and there are 5 cities in Colombia with more than 1 million people. So we were talking about Bogota, Barranquilla, Cali, Cartagena, and Medellin. Okay, Cartagena around 1 million people, and all of the others over 1 million people. So that gives 5 cities with large population that facilitates distribution through the country by concentrating on that area. Colombia has a very diverse geographical landscape. So we have the coast, the Andes Mountains, in which Bogota is in a high altitude over 8,000 feet, almost 9,000 feet. We have the Amazon rainforest. So all of that in the same country, very diverse. It creates challenges logistically. So imagine everything that comes into the seaports will have to go up the mountain into Bogota. But then you have also those large metropolitan areas around the country. Also interesting about Colombia, not only the geographical proximity with the US, but also Colombia has seaports in both the Atlantic and the Pacific, which means that whichever shipping lines you may find for your products better going through either coast of the USA, you will find a port in Colombia to deliver those goods depending on the shipping lines that you may find. So that's a very good advantage for Colombia. There is an FTA in force with Colombia since 2012. It's phasing out in the next couple of years. Already, most of the agricultural products take advantage of duty-free in Colombia, zero tariffs, which is a great advantage for US products, okay? Colombia is the leading destination for US products in South America. And actually, if we think of all of the US agriculture, Colombia ranks sixth in the largest global destinations for all of the countries that US exports to. Colombia is number six, and it's number one in South America. It has been growing year by year. Every year, a new record. Last year, US exported $4.5 billion to Colombia. Okay, and this is already a 20% increase from the previous year. One thing also important, there are competitors to the US in Colombia, such as the main ones are the European Union and Brazil. Um, but you may be thinking like Colombia borders Brazil, but there's no way of going into Brazil to Colombia by land. You have to go around. Either go through Venezuela and then Colombia, or Peru and then Colombia, or by sea. There's no roads in between Colombia and Brazil. Um, and also for all of the agricultural uh, products imported by Colombia, US represents over 40% of that market share. So this is a very good market for any US food company, food and beverage company in South America, in the world actually, and actually the gateway into South America. Next slide, please. So when we talk about products, if we're talking about consumer-oriented products, we're talking mostly the main imported products are pork products, dairy products, dog and cat food, pulses, tree nuts, condiments and sauces. But then we see all sorts of snacks, and we'll go into other best prospects in a few slides in here for other products such as alcoholic beverages, other processed vegetables, and so on. So I'll talk about that later. In total agriculture, including commodities, we will go into corn, soybean, pork, ethanol, poultry. Those are the main products imported by Colombia. One thing that is interesting is the increased acceptance of the US style of America in Colombia. Colombians like the USA, and this has not changed this year. Sorry. 2 weeks ago, Food Export promoted an importers seminar in Bogota, and we had full house, which means that importers, they are interested in the US. They haven't changed their mind about the US this year. And this is good news. They keep on liking the US and they perceive US as good quality. Okay. Uh, Colombian have some issues with currency fluctuation in the past month that has been really stable around 4,000 pesos per US dollar. We reached during pandemic over 5,000 pesos, but that has already been around those 4,000 pesos line, which is good to keep into that. There are field fluctuations up and down, but it keeps on that. This is a price sensitive consumer overall. Okay, and why do I say overall? Colombia has a large population. As I've mentioned, it's the third largest in the region. And there is a part of that population that invests in top quality products. As other countries in South America in general, we're having smaller families, some of them usually only couples with a pet, not a kid, that uses the money that they have available to purchase premium products. And they have acceptance for US products and they're looking for premium products. So this is something to take into consideration for Colombia. Also, Colombian consumers are caring about the health, environmental, and natural trends in general. Okay. This is something important to mention in here. Colombia has been passing some legislations about health and natural products. So one of them is the nutritional labeling. This is something that you've seen if you have already exported or worked into other Latin American countries, you probably have seen that those, we call it stop signs. So those are high in signs that you come in the front panel of the packaging, high in salt, high in sodium, high in sugar. So those nutritional labeling signs, they have it also in Colombia. Um, then Colombia passed in the end of 2023, it's already in force, a legislation on over-processed foods. Okay, this means that foods that are considered over-processed or which have the high-in um, seals overall, they are subject to an additional tax. However, that is for Colombian companies and US or international companies. That is for everybody. So even the local manufacturers, they have to pay that tax on ultra processed foods. Okay. Um, and then there is one legislation in Colombia that it's actually a barrier. It's the sodium legislation. So if a product, Colombia has set 60 categories of products and limited the amount of sodium in those products. So if your product is over that limit of sodium that Colombia legislation has set, you cannot export to Colombia. That's the only barrier. So if you have any questions about your sodium content in Colombia, we'll be happy to answer that and check on that, on the limits, because it's case by case, it's product by product. It's not the same level of sodium for all of them. So, but that's the only one that would be a barrier. Okay, all of the others, any international company or domestic company in Colombia will face. It's the same, including the sodium ones in Colombia. Um, it's um, it's the same for everybody, but this one, it's the only one that blocks one product. Okay. Next slide, please. So when we talk about the best prospects into Colombia, we have here some of the main products that we see growing demand in Colombia and that we see trade leads coming and that we see importers looking for. Um, uh, and, and we see more attraction to it. Also, I would like to talk about some trends on that. So next slide, please. Also, if your products are into healthy or functional snacks or beverages, any plant-based premium foods, as I've mentioned, there's a population looking for that, convenience products, either premium or economy actually, or sweets and desserts, functional beverages, pet treats. So anything in those categories also, anything natural also is trending in Colombia. So those are types of products that would go really well into those trade missions. However, if your product is not listed, please talk to us or to your liaison and let's check about the opportunities for your products in Colombia. Overall, Colombia is a very good market for even niche products to start exporting to, and it's the gateway to South America. So if you're planning to start your businesses in South America, I always advise U.S. exporters. Colombia is the gateway. Colombia is the first country to explore because of the free trade agreement. It's easier in terms of regulations compared to other countries in the region, and geographically, it's very convenient with facilitated access into the country. So If this is a country for you and for your product, let's talk a little bit about the itinerary for the mission and how that's going to work. So next slide, please. So what is the idea? Is to arrive on a Tuesday in Colombia, November 11th. That's a arrival day only to get used to Bogota, to the high altitudes, into the city, relax. And then we start next day with the educational day. So in the morning, let's learn more about Colombia, about the market, take any last questions that you may have about that market, and then learn about the products that we have in that market on the retail tour. So that's the idea about those missions, is do that immersion in the market. Okay. Then next day on Thursday, we'll have a full day. And this is like the get ready for a very intense day. Mornings with one-on-one meetings, then do a networking, a reception lunch, and then one-on-one meetings again. So intense full days of activities. And then you can either go back to the US on a late night departure. So from Bogota, there are flights leaving late night from Bogota to the USA, or depart next day and enjoy beautiful Bogota. If you've never been there, you should go. It's amazing city and amazing people also in Colombia. And next slide, please. What should we be expecting that? The one-on-one meetings with qualified buyers. That's it. That's all we expect. And this is the main part of the trade mission. Also, we'll be doing for you to so that you can prepare ahead of time the pre-event product research. So we'll give you some information about a market overview and importation, distribution analysis, and even the estimated landed cost of your product into Colombia. We'll have the market briefing and retail tour, the showcase of our products over the reception, a very nice trade mission brochure, like a supplier's guide for all the participants to have information about your company, even if they are not meeting with you. If you need interpreters into Spanish, they will be there for you, and also will assist you with translation of 2 pages of marketing material into Colombian Spanish. Um, as well, you will have our team, myself, of course, and our team in Colombia with you during the entire uh, trade mission, all of the days since the arrival day, assisting you if needed. What you should be expecting in terms of buyers, distributors mostly, importers of food service, if your product is food service. It's a food service product. Some processors and manufacturers, if we have ingredients companies, and retailers. This is important to mention that different than in the US, that usually we go into retailers directly. In Colombia, it may make more sense to go with a distributor instead of directly with a retailer. Of course, it depends on the strategy of each company, but this is something you should be considered. And Colombia has very good distributors that will take care of the brands of the companies in the US. So if you've never participated with Food Expert into a trade mission, I would like to show some pictures of the last 2 trade missions in Colombia. So next slide, please. And show you how it looks like, starting with a retail tour in which you will see people learning from retailers and looking into shelves, and then going into market briefing. We'll get together, we'll discuss the market. That's what you see in your screens right now. And then going to the networking reception and the one-on-one meetings, which you see in your screen right now, which is the most important component um, of those events. And next slide, please. I think this is all that I have for now. I'm not sure now, Cindy,
I'll take
would
this
you
one
help
again.
me out with the
Absolutely.
prices and registration? Thank you.
Definitely. The prices and registration deadlines for early bird, which for us is July 9th. The price will be $425, and we do encourage you to sign up early due to it being a focused trade mission. We do have a limited number of spots, so that we highly encourage that. If it goes past the early deadline, then August 20th will be the final deadline, and the price increases a little bit to $625. If you have any questions, if you could go to the next slide, please. You can contact your liaison. Your liaison is listed by if your company's headquarters in Illinois or New York, you would contact the appropriate liaison. And now, do we have any questions? If you could, right now is, could you give a little bit of examples of dairy ingredients or the bakery ingredients that you might be looking for this mission?
Okay, yeah, sure. So in Colombia, there is usually any milk powder, skim milk powder that goes well into Colombia. Also butter. There was a lack of butter a few years ago in Colombia, so those are typically ingredients that do well in Colombia. There has been also, when we think about the health trend, um, there is buyers looking for like whey protein. And so just a reminder that Colombia started an investigation against the US and milk powder a couple of years ago. There is an additional duty of 4.86, if I'm not wrong, percent of um, for milk powder since the end of last year. This, we're waiting for the final decision case, but this is US is still exporting the milk powder to Colombia regardless of.
Okay, there's a question about being focused on retail and food service, and yes, this mission is focused on that, but there were just a couple of additions for potential ingredients.
Okay.
Um,
So it depends on the suppliers. On our side, we have contacts with both food service and retail distributors. Of course, Colombia has more retail distributors than food service distributors just because the market's more concentrated for food service, but yeah, we have it. It depends on the company. If they have the food service product, we'll have them meet with food service distributors or food service operators and chains that work in Colombia. Those operators sometimes they import directly to their brands, and also local food service chains in Colombia, they also import directly for their stores.
okay, great. And another question, do we ship distilled spirit samples to a certain location for the event?
Okay, so for samples, we will be providing to all of the companies participating in the event the samples shipment guide, so recommending a freight forwarder for the samples to arrive in Colombia. It's important to note that in Colombia it doesn't work. For example, FedEx, I've heard before in some missions, some suppliers that they send the samples to themselves at the hotels. That doesn't work well in Colombia if it is a foodstuff or any food and beverage item. But we will be giving the instructions and recommend a freight forwarder. You don't have to use our freight forwarder, but we will recommend one for the mission.
And what is the amount of time you should allow to have samples shipped?
Into Colombia, I
Mhm.
think we're gonna work in around 1.5 months, around
Okay,
that, 1 month
okay,
before. Yeah, just to go in through all of the process
okay,
of the
good to know.
documentations and all.
If there's no other questions, feel free to reach out to your liaisons for anything else you think of. We're happy to help answer that, or we can reach back out to Leo for any additional questions you might have. But thank you for joining, and I hope you all are able to do this mission.
I hope to. Thank you.
Thank
you, everyone.
you. Bye.